Yes, you guys, you see it right there. I have my own Teespring store. We got some really good deals. All t-shirts are affordable. We got something from men, women, and kids. We even got some mugs and iPhone cases. So you guys definitely check out the Teespring store. The link will be in the description of this video. Let's get into it. Hey, what's up everyone? It's Giorgio, your friendly neighborhood YouTuber, and I'm back with another episode of Beyond Wrestling. Yes, gotta include the southern accent there. And today is gonna be a very fun episode. We're gonna be talking Trish Stratus, and basically I'm gonna be sharing with you all my memories of when I first saw her on TV, you know, which was back in what I would say probably the year 2000. Man, such a crazy time in the wrestling business that was. And so yeah, you know, this was at the height of the Attitude Era, you know, when we saw Trish Stratus first appeared, and she appeared, you know, with this tag team called TNA, which was Test and Albert. You know, two really talented wrestlers those guys was. I was a big fan of Test when they first you know, showed him, which was actually, he was a part of Vince McMahon's corporation. And you know, they had a brief time period, I think, where Austin feuded with him, and then they had a feud with Test and Triple H. And so, you know, when the whole thing with the Test and Triple H didn't work out, you know, one was thinking, well, we all was thinking, what was gonna happen next with that character? And so Test started teaming up with Albert, and they formed a whole tag team with TNA, and not TNA Wrestling, I have to make sure I be clear, it's TNA. And you know, but yeah, you know, they were doing okay, but then when they had Trish Stratus as their manager, that's when things really started to pick up. And that was when I first saw her, you know. And yeah, she was definitely very striking, you know, in terms of looks, you know. And so that was when, you know, I had first saw her. And I will admit, I did come across her pictures on the internet. Hey, most teenage boys probably did, you know, so I guarantee I'm not the only one who really found out about her that way. Because, you know, WWF, which is what the WWE was, you know, back in the 90s and 80s and stuff. But, you know, the WWF at the time had the swimsuit photos, you know, and that's kind of where we were seeing you know, Trish Stratus there. And but eventually, you know, I guess whatever reason, her managing Test and Albert, it didn't work out for some reason. So, you know, around this time we had Vince McMahon. He was on the height of his time as a heel in pro wrestling. And you know, he was just running roughshod in the WWF, and you know, causing problems for Austin. And you know, then they somehow included Linda McMahon in the storylines, you know, which is Vince McMahon's wife. And so basically, you know, Vince, he was just an egomaniac with his power. And so then somehow, you know, we got Trish Stratus involved, and she was on his side pretty much doing his dirty work. And then they had this brief storyline with Trish Stratus and Stephanie McMahon. And you know, one day I think Trish Stratus had some kind of tag team match or something. And she asked Triple H to you know, show her some wrestling moves. And of course, you know, him, you know, hey, who's gonna tell Trish Stratus no when it comes to that? So eventually, you know, that's what they had a scene with, you know, Triple H was showing her some kind of submission hold or how to get out of it or something. And then Stephanie walked in, and you know, she walked in at the wrong time. And yeah, that was something else. So yeah, that was like my first early memories of seeing Trish Stratus. And you know, eventually we started seeing her in matches and stuff. You know, I think we saw her face Ivory, you know, They had Tori, not Tori Wilson, but Tori. She was with Kane, and she was also part of the corporation at some point in time. And I think we saw them two battle. They had a really impressive women's roster that was starting to form. We saw Molly Holly up in there. Golly, Jazz started appearing, and I think around like 2001 ish, 2001, 2002, we started seeing Trish Stratus in more matches. Also, they had this little thing where I think they had a feud with her, Chris Jericho and Christian. And I'm trying to remember what happened in that particular thing. I know she turned heel on somebody. I think she probably turned on Jericho with Christian or something like that. I think that's what happened. I'm sure some of you wrestling, fans from the Attitude Era can kind of point me out on what happened with that. But yeah, we saw her kind of, had this thing with Chris Jericho in the storyline and stuff. But it was some good stuff, it was some good stuff. But you could tell that Trish Stratus wanted to be more than just a manager, or more than just in these little mini storylines with guys like Jericho and Triple H, them and Vince. So we started seeing her in the ring, and I will admit she kind of reminds me of how Mandy Rose is right now. Like if you watch Mandy Rose on WWE TV right now, she's slowly improving. Obviously, she has the look, she can talk, she has the entrance a little bit. She can improve a little bit there. But when you go back to Trish Stratus and how she came into the business and how she started wrestling, she didn't start off being really great or really good at it. It took time. It really did. And that's why I think around maybe 2000, I think early 2002, that's when I started to notice that she really was becoming really good in the ring. We saw her face Victoria. We saw her go up against Lita, obviously. We even saw her have some really good feuds, with Mickie James when she came in. And Jazz too, of course. And I know there's some other people. Oh yeah, Gail Kim. It was such an awesome time period right there. And then obviously they had the draft, I think around 2001. And so Trish, she pretty much kind of remained on Raw. She was always on Raw. And that's what I remember. And so she had some really high profile things going on there. And she was winning the women's title. And the thing is, they didn't just hand her the women's title like you see nowadays with wrestlers and stuff. With the women's roster or whatever, you see people winning the title back to back, but they don't hold the belt long. Whenever Trish was the champion, she held that belt for a decent amount of time, and when she did lose it, she didn't get it right back. It was a good while before she got the title back. And eventually she was just doing so well. The fans loved her. She was having really great matches, back to back. And eventually, her and Lita were able to get together and get, WWE management to allow them to have the first ever, main event match on Raw. First ever women's main event match on Raw. Man, I'm telling you, you guys definitely got to go and check that out. They tore the house down for sure in that particular matchup, and that really paved the way for a lot of women. And Trish, she didn't mind being called a diva, but she showed that she can be more than just a WWE or WWF diva. Her and Lita were definitely the trailblazers, and when it comes to this whole women's evolution, and they look good while doing it too. And yeah, I know I'm mentioning Lita and a lot of other women on this particular episode with of Beyond Wrestling with Trish Stratus, but you know, you can't really talk about her career without talking about the supporting cast, the supporting people up in the background, you know, who kind of helped her, you know, reach where she was. And you know, so I really love that the WWE and Vince McMahon them trusted her enough to allow her and Lita to have that main event spot, you know, on Raw, you know, because that was never before heard of, you know, in the business. And so and they showed that women can deliver. But of course, you know, after that, you know, WWE started going back into their old, you know, ways with the whole bra and panties matches, which was nothing wrong with those matches, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed those. I mean, come on, they were pretty good depending on who was in them. But you know, Trish Stratus showed that, you know, women can be more than just, you know, people who are on TV to look good and all of that. You know, she showed that, you know, women can have a significant role in the wrestling business, and showed that, hey, they can, you know, entertain people too, you know, with their in-ring work, you know, with their mic skills, you know. And she was that, you know, pioneer in that regard. And of course, I think we saw her, you know, come back a couple of years later. You know, she did some really cool stuff on TV, I think with John Cena, which I thought that was really neat. And most recently, you know, we saw her at SummerSlam facing Charlotte, and in my opinion, the best women's match on that particular card. I would even say it's up there as far as the top matches in general of that card, you know, even with the men matches. Like if I had like a top three, her match with Charlotte would be at the top almost, for real. Like, I really enjoyed that, you know. And Trish, she went out there and she gave it her all. She took that whole thing serious. And you know, and usually when the legend comes back, you know, the main reason or the main thing is to help the people who are gonna be there for the next couple of years, you know, help them get over. And she did that with Charlotte. And then of course Charlotte paid the respects by leaving Trish in the ring to you know, thank the fans, let her have that moment. And that's how you do it. And Trish Stratus will always be remembered by many of us, you know, for being just captivating from the moment she stepped out of that curtain, or stepped through that curtain, you know. And I'm very happy that I was able to witness her when she first came on the scene. And basically that's what this whole episode of Beyond Wrestling is about. It's just my memories of when I first saw her. And so I would love to know what you guys' first thoughts were when you had saw Trish Stratus on your screen, you know. And what was your favorite match of hers, you know, some of your favorite moments in terms of the storylines. And I appreciate you all for listening. And as I like to say on this particular show or video, is that I like to cover wrestling's past, present, and future. But I see a lot of you guys love when I talk about the legendary wrestlers and the old school stuff. So if you have any other ideas for future episodes of this, you know, put them in the comment section and I will make sure to do videos of that. And also I'm working on getting this show on Apple Podcast and Google Podcast and stuff like that. So if you guys have any tips for that, let me know. That way we can get more listeners on this particular show, and we can make this thing special. But I appreciate you guys for hanging in there with me. We're almost at 500 subscribers, and we're gonna get there in our own good time. You know, it's a slow burning process, but it's all good, you know, because I'm having fun, and that's what matters. And I'm making good connections and bonds with you guys. So I will see you in the comment section, and we got more unboxing videos, more ASMR, more good gaming stuff in general. I will talk to you guys later, and you all stay safe and cool out there in that hot ass weather. This is Giorgio, your friendly neighborhood YouTuber, and you just listened to Beyond Wrestling episode 24. I was so excited about this episode, I didn't even say which number it was. But oh well, you guys know what it is. I will catch you later. Peace out.